the worst that could happen?
Somehow you've just got slurs on the screen.
The button has been pressed.
The big slur button.
Oh, no, it's the last thing we wanted to happen. Okay, I've pressed the button. The YouTube backend is telling me that we are live. Hopefully that is the case. There appears to be some people here, some concurrent viewers, apparently.
Some chatters.
So say hello in the chat if that is the case. Reassure us that you can see us and hear us.
Are we talking into the void?
Etc. I mean, I feel like there's a stage at which you're always talking into the void with making videos for the internet. So
yeah.
In many ways, the weirdest part of I don't know whether they call it career, YouTube Bing has been the bit at which you're suddenly not talking into a void, and then it's like, oh, I've got to sort of try and make these good now.
Yeah.
That's like it sort of matters a bit now.
I got that the first Patreon subscriber I got. I was like, oh shit! Now these actually they're worth something to someone. So you got to actually make an effort.
Yeah, I find that my emotional sort of relationship to Patreon is like sort of two ways in which I find it astonishing that anyone would want to support the stuff, and like it's amazing, but there's also like that, and maybe it's like a healthy pressure where you're like, okay, that also means I've got to make things. Maybe that's the same with anything.
Yeah.
Hello everyone. Hello watching the World UK. Thank you for saying that you can see and hear us and reassuring us that we're not entirely speaking into the void.
Unless it's just fucking with us.
yeah. To be fair, I basically asked that at the beginning of any stream. So if any week someone logged on at the very beginning and was just like, yeah, you can totally hear and see
this
anything,
is great.
I'd be like, cool, yeah, fantastic, and just like carry on from there. Yeah, welcome back to another week of live streams on a Thursday at 7 p.m. UK time, or whatever time that is for anyone anywhere else in the world. My name's Tom. Thank you for being here, and we have a guest this week. Another guest. John, I'm gonna let you introduce yourself, because if I introduce people, inevitably I feel like I've done an amazing job, and they're like, well, that's not really how I describe myself personally. But so I will give you and then I will amplify the good things afterwards.
Well, I'm bad at introducing myself normally as well. I'm John. I make videos, and then I also do academic stuff. I'm working on my PhD at the moment as well. That's basically it. That's the two interesting things about me.
And you show off your massive organ on the internet.
Well, my dad's massive organ. Wait, whoa.
What would you? So yeah, John. I've behind our heads currently, for anyone watching, is a picture of your latest video. Maybe I can mute it and like play it like we're on the news or something, and it's like B-roll. It's like God. You're playing behind us.
Hold on, I'm gonna have to mute that for me as well.
Sorry, I blasted it in your ears. This is John's latest video. About debating on the internet, which maybe we'll talk about in a minute, because that always seems to come up in my streams, and I like it's a world which I'm not particularly it's a world which I have steered a bit clear of, and so I'm not hugely familiar with. So maybe you'll be able to offer us some words of wisdom. But what is, I suppose, what is your PhD in? I believe I know a little bit.
So I'm looking at how or whether human rights as like a particular tool or a particular discourse is useful for generating social movement activism, or producing framing which is antithetical and useful for combating neoliberalism. That's the general elevator pitch that I've gotten adept at just sort of spewing out whenever someone asks me. But it's been the sort of theory has been a bit developing recently with stuff I've been reading on social reproduction theory and how those things interact with neoliberalism and social movements. So that elevator pitch might change in a little bit, but it's kind of the interaction between social reproduction and human rights framing is an interesting one, which I want to delve deeper into at some point soon.
What are your? I think you've made a sort of video touching on human rights. Is that right?
Yeah,
That I
yeah,
have watched, but I can't quite remember your what I'm sure is like a barnstorming conclusion. Like what is your feeling about whether I don't know. I guess what you're trying to talk about, like, is it useful to go? Well, it's our human right to be able to do X, Y, Z, or is that?
yeah, essentially. And are those social movements that use human rights are they compromised by that use? Because you get that a lot with like particular strands of radical thought where they say, oh, it's a human rights thing, so it's necessarily compromised, it's necessarily, anti-class, it's necessarily bourgeois. True. I don't think that's true of the. I mean, I think that's like if you look, you get some people who look at theory and they go, here's a theory, and they don't look at how that interacts with the real world. And you see all over how human rights organizations, or not even organizations, just social movements that use human rights framing have been incredibly radical and incredibly like counter-hegemonic and opposed. Really, like in the case of like UK or Western movements like the Right to Water campaign in Ireland or housing rights campaigns, they've used human rights as essential parts of their mobilizing techniques and have been gotten like fundamental levels of neoliberal capitalism, opposing the commodification of these things, which is like really essential to the spread of neoliberal capitalism. And then outside the West, you've got, just yesterday I was at a talk, a digital talk with some other folk in my university who are experts in Indigenous rights and Indigenous movements, and I asked them this question about whether they felt there was a tension between the legal dimensions of that, of international law and of colonial legal systems, and how Indigenous groups mobilize, and they were just like, yeah, there's a tension, but this is a tool that we can use, and it's like one of the only tools that we are able to use in this context. And you see that quite frequently with different groups using these tools in certain ways. And the video on human rights was less specifically on what I'm looking at, and it was instead looking at that way that particular strains of Marxist thought and some videos on human rights I've seen have been really poor at looking at human rights as something which is, in dialectical tension. Marxists should be good at looking at things as being in dialectical tension with various different things and different relations in society. Well, a lot of Marxism that looks at human rights has been, here is rights as a thing which exists across time, from the 16th century to the 21st, with very little change in how they're constructed and how that construction might interact with different groups. And because it is this one thing, we reject it. And it's just not a very good way of looking at a social phenomenon.
I suppose it's as much about the like institutions that wrap around that I don't know that are like in charge of. I know it's at the international level generally, like it's a bit like I hope everyone.
Yeah.
There often isn't. I don't know. Like you get like the International Criminal Court and stuff like that, and like the war crimes people, but it tends to be a bit like please don't break the rules.
Even the International Criminal Court people are often like, please don't break the rules. The international legal systems and the NGO systems are very much part of the sort of hegemonic form of human rights that I'm very open to criticizing and frequently do, as essentially toothless and useless. But they're not the only expressions of these things. They're expressed throughout society in different ways and often in direct opposition to international law. Like the International Agrarian Movement, Via Campesina, uses human rights frame because it's a universalistic language, which has its own issues in itself. But because of that universalism, it has allowed them to link up with very, very different groups, very different peasant groups across the global south, using human rights claims, but directly resisting being institutionalized within the UN structures, within the international legal structures, because they know if that happened, their claims would be dulled by that institutional system. So they're very much using the language against the expressions of it.
And I guess like it's useful in the sense of like if you don't necessarily get the whole context of what's going on in the situation, that there is that sort of language to go to. Zombie Ruler in the chat said that I was a bit quiet in comparison to John. I have tried to I've moved some widget things. I don't know. Let me know if that's any better or not.
I can turn myself down if that helps.
Oh, that's swanky. That we might be in all kinds of problems there, because now I'm gonna. I'll just try and get if I try and get the green bits to be similar. I think that's how it works. Someone tweeted the other day. I just tried to find it, couldn't find it. Talking a little bit about like the refugee crisis and particularly like refugees come across the channel, about how like discursively, I guess, the research suggests that talking about that in terms of sort of human rights and like international law and stuff often isn't the most, in terms of like winning other people over. I don't know, in the UK presumably like your old like white dude down the pub who's like, oh, I'm gonna send them all back, that actually going like, oh, it's a mother and father and their children who are like human beings and maybe we should care about their well-being, is actually like loads more effective because it's like emotive than it is to go like, technically under the UN human, whatever it's called on refugees, like they don't have to go to the first country, like, and like all that like technical stuff I think just sends people to sleep.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that's definitely one of the things that led me to the particular view I take in my research, which is very much anti-legal to an extent. Like it's very much generating understandings of this concept from the ground up rather than a top-down legal perspective, was just seeing how useless international law and international human rights law is as a thing. I mean, it's got particular contexts in which it can be useful, and particular people have found it useful in ways, but I mean, it's not something I would be particularly interested in to say, make a human right to do this and then we'll fix the problem. Like, it's much more in that sort of. So, for example, one of the people I've been interviewing was talking about how they use the right to education, the human right to education, as a really useful way of framing opposition to commodification and marketization within the education system, and that human right that they're saying is just like in the way that you're saying there. It's like children deserve humanity, and they deserve to express that humanity and be able to live that humanity through education, not just through get a job. Here's how you get a job.
That must be. It does. It sounds very, very technical, but very interesting. How far through are you in terms of?
I'm like 18 months in, so I'm about halfway through. I'm in the fieldwork stage at the moment, just trying to collect interviews and transcribing and coding and all the most boring shit.
But like, I don't know. I sometimes work like that. I find where you're like doing something that is like a bit tedious, but is like, I don't know, just like putting things in boxes or whatever. At least like you can, like writing I find is really frustrating. Like writing because you can't tick things off in quite the same. I don't know how you find it with like, whether it's PhD writing or writing for your videos.
I like writing a lot as as one of the reasons why I started doing the channel is just because I liked writing. Um, it's probably my favorite. The writing and the research are like my favorite parts of putting together a video. Uh, Transcribing and box ticking stuff can kill me. Maybe like I was doing coding yesterday, coding an interview, and just like every 2 minutes I was checking my phone. I was just like, oh Jesus Christ, I can't do this any more than 30 seconds at a time, or else my brain melts like soup.
Oh man. Chat is saying that volume is better, so I'm not going to touch anything.
Amazing.
Watching the world is very proud of my getting the green bit similar. I like this to be these streams to be like a source of some behind the scenes tips and tricks as well. So
Yeah. Get the green bit similar. A quote by Tom Nicholas.
So it's actually my main tip for making videos. Just get the green bit similar. Make the pictures move. That's how to make successful YouTube videos. Someone in the chat saying that I find the writing is the best part of research. Hands-on work is really tiring. I think like I care about the writing the most, like, and how it's written and how the argument hangs together and all that, which I think means that like that's the bit that like tears my soul apart to do sometimes, because I'm like, I'm like, or I'm like, I've got all of these, I don't know, notes from like 3 books that I'm trying to get into like 500 words, and I'm like, but I want to get it all in, and
yeah, I very much get that. I've got a big problem of doing too much research and trying to cram it all into, like, I mean, a video of 4,000 words is like a long video, but a really short piece of writing.
Yeah.
And trying to get a big bibliography into that is really hard.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, like I think you were just saying about your before we came on. You were saying about your next video that like the context just adds, because you're like, I really want to just make this point, like a nice simple point about X, Y, Z, and you're like, well, to say that, I need to like sort of give this context, and then they're going to give that background. Oh, and I can't make that argument without also acknowledging this sort of nuanced other point that like,
to understand why Hillary Clinton is bad, you've got to go back to the 16th century witch hunts.
And like people used to take the like in like the sort of kind taking the piss in the comments thing, not like the like saying they're gonna like kill me. Was like people, like the sort of fun sort of, I suppose, ribbing rather than like threats. Where like people used to take the mick at me for like saying nevertheless, I can't even say it all now, being like nevertheless all the time. I'm like, but there's just like nuances, right? So you have to be like, this is true, but that doesn't mean that there's also like
I have a few of that where I'm just like, let me be clear. Just like getting the politician thumb up. Let me be clear. I am not saying. And anytime you do it, you inevitably get someone in the comments saying, so you're saying. Like,
I do want to learn at what point British private schools teach this hand, like this, like, so that they do. I think it must be that like pointing is considered rude, so it has to be like, it's like, don't do that, like, so it's like, and this thing and this thing and this thing, like, because they all do it, and I'm like, I've never naturally done this. This is no one has
ever naturally done that.
There's not a thing my hand does, and like, man. So Marina Dove is in the chat. Hello, welcome.
Hi, Marina.
Thank you for joining us. And Zombie Ruler is saying, I'm the opposite. Doing a robotics PhD, and the practical work tends to be a lot more varied and interesting than writing about it. Yeah, but you're building robots.
Come on, man.
Like, 0% of my life is taken up building robots.
I spend 4 hours, no, longer than that. I spend like 8 hours typing the words that someone else has said on a call to me. That's not fun.
Someone recommended a thing called Otter to me the other day, which apparently can, but I don't know if you have to pay for it. But
I think there's also issues with like GDPR,
because it gets sent off to someone else and then comes back.
Yeah, or even if it's just uploaded to a site, there's like issues with that are,
So the
you
ethics
know,
committee will hunt you down and
yeah. And you know what they're like.
with their knives. Hello, Luke Bots as well. Welcome, welcome, welcome. So like in a bunch of your recent videos, I think a bunch might mean two. You've sort of looked at like speech in various ways, and in ways which I think have been really interesting as well. Like you sort of talked a bit about sort of cancel. What did you sort of talked
Oh
about like
yeah,
you were tired about the free speech debate.
yeah, yeah. I forgot about that one.
Silenced. You're bored.
Yeah,
You're bored of the free speech debate.
yeah, yeah.
And you also talked, and then, that I don't know. Maybe that interacts with the debate video a bit as well. But I did think I was rewatching that one this morning. I think it was really interesting that like adding that like, because that's almost like you talking about human rights a minute ago. It's like so
Mm,
much of our chat about the sort of popular discourse about uh speech and like cancelling and etc
mm.
etc is like rights based, like people going like, well, you have the right to do this, you
Yeah.
is human, like you have a usually in like a sort of constitutional understanding of like having the right, or legal understanding of having the right to do
Mm.
stuff. But I think what you did was quite interesting, was go like, actually that's not important, or like actually that's far less interesting or important than having the like material ability to,
Yeah.
like, everyone can have the right to broadcast into the void as like, or to like shout at their TV, but um
It's like what Marx's between equal rights force decides.
mm, mm, but yeah, so you either don't have the material, the money to get your, well, I suppose, like, I don't know, who was the guy, Michael Bloomberg, wasn't it, that like just completely just had enough money to just do a presidential
Yeah.
primary campaign, like,
Yeah.
you like, in a way that, and was like massively unpopular, like no one was really that into it, but like, just if you have the money you can have a
Well, I
voice.
mean,
And
he has his own newspaper, doesn't he? Is Bloomberg News associated with him?
I think it must, like, initially at least be, I don't know
Yeah.
what their present day connections.
I know
Are.
that the Gates Foundation funds news organizations around the world, including the BBC, to some
Mm,
extent. So
I've
obviously that's helpful for them.
I've got some like Bill Gates stuff like slowly brewing in the background at the moment,
Mm.
because it's just fascinating. I think they seem to have like mostly
Cat came in.
No, I
Sorry.
think so. That's cats are totally acceptable. Uh, I can now say that there's two guests on the stream.
Yeah.
Uh, oh no, they are still. I don't know. Lots of places where they used to like actively call themselves the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, they've just been like the Gates Foundation now, because I don't know. I don't know how involved. Like, I don't. What's gonna go on there? Like,
Yeah.
who knows? He did have like such a massive fall from like very quickly.
Yeah, it
Um,
was kind of amazing how quickly the things turned on him.
uh, but yeah, I've been. I think you saying you'd also read this in the chat of another stream or on Twitter or something. I've been reading The Divide. Um,
Oh yeah, yeah, that's a great book.
which I forget who it's by. It's
Jason
downstairs.
Hickel.
Jason Hickel. Which like only occasionally mentions, but like talks a lot about like development.
Mm,
And that's been quite interesting because I think like some of my like earliest bits of like political awareness were probably like Make Poverty History and stuff like that.
yeah.
Um, the debt, like the drop the debt stuff, which sort of was, some of that was lent towards developmental stuff, and some of it
Mm,
lent towards like, let's just forgive debt that's been paid off, and like, so an
mm,
actual more like meaningful uh, stuff. But so it was but it was interesting to go back and go like, actually, of the things that then I'd have been like, yes, this is really important. What are the things that stand up as like, yeah, no, that probably was, and what are the things you're like, oh, I might revise that slightly.
Yeah, it's a brilliant book. That book, for just entering into like the complete plundering of the world that's engaged in by the West.
And like sort of capitalism as a global system as well. Like,
yeah.
I think what it does really well is it'll talk about like enclosure in England, and then it will like I think if you're reading it from a perspective of being Tom Nicholas, like it's quite good in that it will be like, oh, that's a thing I know about. I was like, oh, there's a thing I know about, which it'll talk about, and I'll be like, oh, okay, I understand this, and then it'll be like, this is similar to that, and I'll be like, oh, I understand, yes, because it's similar to the thing I already knew about. Luke Botts is asking, is that a player piano or an organ, or perhaps a wind piano in the background, John?
It is an organ. It is some great aunt that died about 40 years ago, left my dad an organ, and that's his organ.
That's the organ now. That's staying in your family forever now.
Yeah, it's broken. I think he wants to get it fixed. But this is like a deranged room that I'm in. I can't show you it all because he has got a portrait of a naked woman up above the fireplace. So I can't show you it all. It's deeply creepy. Used to hate coming in here when I was a child because there's also old photographs of all these dead family members in black and white that are fucking terrifying to look at for a child.
But it's got like a vibe to it.
It's a vibe, but not all vibes are good vibes.
Yeah, but no one wants it. Like Did you see?
I mean, it's not a beige room. Like it's got that going for it.
Did you see? Someone shared on Twitter like an advert. But it was like a YouTube advert for some kind of like series of books that were like, make sure your child doesn't become a communist.
Oh, I love that. I love that.
Wait, who was it from?
Good.
Who was it?
It was Adequate Emily shared the video.
Okay. I need to find this video because it was like it's fantastic. Because like my main thing, because it like obviously it just talks about like freedom all the time. It's like make sure your child is aware of freedom existing. But she she's in this house which is just like everything's painted white and like is like, I don't know, just like feels like the Argos basics.
Like living in an IKEA showroom.
Yeah, and it's like, did you not have the like freedom like to like just decorate your house? Like, okay. I think I can get this onto
yeah, I think you can
watch together. It also just is fantastic, like American anti-communism, just like of the proper sort of deranged. Like, how long has the Soviet Union not existed for? Now,
30 years.
30 years. But like the hats. I mean, to be fair, I spent a couple of evenings because I couldn't watch it all in one go because it didn't really engage me in any way. Watching Rocky 4 recently.
It took you more than one sitting to watch the best Rocky film.
It's just not very like. So I'd been watched, and then I realised I'd just been sort of doing something else and just hadn't really watched any of it. And then when you rewatch some scenes of something, and you're like, I have watched this, but
yeah.
And I thought I was going to have missed more than I did because it is like 50% montages. I've realised.
It's so good, isn't it?
Oh wait, so Luke Botts is saying, I had a friend as a child, and her parents had a life-size, very realistic painting of their naked selves.
Oh my god,
that's a vibe though. No one's going to forget those parents. Do you know what I mean? Like, you're going to be,
no matter how much they want to.
But like, people will be like, "Oh, have you ever been to X's house?" They'll be like, "Yeah, I remember that one exactly."
Yeah.
Okay. Here is amazing video. Thank you to Adequate Emily to bring this to our attention. Of a YouTube advert, and I get some fantastic YouTube adverts just from like the stuff I have to search for researching videos. Means that like It is interesting. Every month, the things I'm suggesting are completely different from the previous month because I'm now working on a completely different topic. But this is a completely just wild video for children's books, I believe, as the product.
Yeah, and I mean, just this first image is a vibe I want to cultivate in myself. It's so hard.
Right, let me know in the chat if this doesn't make sound. Also, let me know if it does, because that'll be reassuring. I muted it, didn't I?
Stop it, Vlad.
Vlad is amazing. No.
We must seize the means of production. Stop it, Vlad. You know the rule. If you want to regulate something, go regulate the mess in your room. It seems a big part about being a mom these days.
I just love that the rule is no like, what does that mean in like a practical sense? No hat.
Regulate the mess in your room. What does that mean? Like,
but that's like
categorize it.
That's like American conservatism of like communism is regulation, isn't it? It's like that is what it means. It's red tape.
Yeah, but the implication is that there's an acceptable amount of of mess in the room for you to regulate.
Socialism in one bedroom.
If you want to regulate something, go regulate the mess in your room. It seems a big part about being a mom these days is helping your kids unlearn the crazy ideas.
Is this a controversy that has happened?
I've never seen Peppa Pig, but I can't believe I've been missing out.
I will say, like lockdown 1 or 2, maybe, I can't remember. Me and some friends were doing like a Zoom quiz thing each week, and we do like a specialist round or whatever. And the friends that are a couple with a baby, who are the only friends in that group that have a child, I think, were like, well, you've all been doing other stuff, we're going to do Peppa Pig as our, like, because that's like basically our entire lives. And so like I watched a few episodes to sort of, we'd read the Wikipedia page, but
right.
But I was like, I need something to like hook all this knowledge on. I watched a couple of episodes, and actually quite funny. Like there's quite a lot of like good little jokes for the like I could watch it.
Is it communist?
I don't know. I don't know whether this is
like into season 3 you get into like the real fucking like deep shit, like the deep lore of the Peppa Pig community, like where they like hang one of the leader pigs by his ankles off the lamppost. And
I mean, like judging by this advert, it's probably that like Peppa Pig once shared their I'm okay, I don't actually know. Peppa Pig once shared their cookies, presumably with the other pigs, and that's like Alexander McDonough in the chat saying Peppa and George go to the Kremlin. Maybe that is an episode.
It might well be like Peppa inspires revolution in Cuba. Like
there must at least have been the Bay of Peppa Pig.
yeah, there we go.
There must be like at least some like sort of like mocked up controversy about Peppa Pig that this is based upon. This can't just be like completely random. I mean, I love it even more if it is. But also, look how happy everyone else is in that picture. If I was coming up with this, I would make it like a sort of evil. I don't know. I'd make this look less cool.
Yeah, I mean, it does look dope.
Is they're exposed to in the world.
Mom, I just found out that if I run into the TV fast enough, I'll become a cartoon.
Nope, that will kill you. And it's not just.
That's a legit. Probably not a legit problem. I very doubt that the child has tried to run into the TV, but that's at least a legit like. I think across the political divide, we can agree that children should not run into the TV.
I believe children should have the right to run into whatever they feel like it.
Learn from their own mistakes.
Without the oppression of adults in the community.
Yeah, she should let him learn by his own mistakes and be whatever doesn't kill him makes him stronger.
We're going Rousseau on this. Just let the kids live their own lives.
Normal kid stuff. Now, my kids are being told by the media and even the school system that socialism is great.
Mama, if we just get rid of all these successful people, we'll finally be happy.
I think my favourite thing about this is that they had to buy a copy of Karl Marx's Selected Writings.
Yeah.
Which must be... I wonder what sort of budget this has.
I look, it's better produced than any of my videos, so it's definitely something.
They've got angles.
Yeah.
I don't do
They had
angles. I can't be bothered with angles. That's
They
like...
had a crew.
Yeah, these must be... I wonder what it's like trying to hire actors for this kind of... Like, is it just people that are so ground down that they're like, yeah... Like, imagine, like, when your agent rings you up and goes, like, okay, I've got you this advert. It's for, like, an online advert.
I suspect that the mum, at least, is maybe someone who's related to or involved in the product being sold.
I'm going to say she's not a bad actor. And the child is what you would expect from a child actor. So
yeah,
I think, like,
the child, it's just, you know, I'm sure there are conservative actors and desperate actors, but there's something like, maybe this is mean, there's something hollow in the eyes of the woman, and maybe that is just because she hates doing it.
Watching the world in the chat is saying that the irony is that most actors are in unions, and I was going to say, I wonder if there's like a right-wing equity in the US. Like, it totally would not surprise me if there's like like some kind of... I feel like Ronald Reagan was some sort of equity chief or something and tried to depoliticize.
Honey, that means we'll all be poor. I want to teach my kids right, but it is so hard to find age-appropriate material to teach them about the principles of freedom. The blocks are the supply.
But I think this was the thing that stood out to me. I like the fact that she has gone out and bought her Pride-themed Jenga set. The official Jenga set of Pride 2021. And it never... I thought this was going to be a thing. Like, I thought that this was going to, like... I don't, like,
go
be
into some sort of joke or something.
like, there's going to be, like, a sort of, like, homophobic bit. But no, this is just the Jenga set that they have, apparently.
Yeah, that bit was weird to me as well.
I can see from a design perspective, if it might just blend in. If it was, like, normal Jenga, it might just blend into this horrible, horrible flat.
Do you think someone bought this Pride Jenga and got fired, but they didn't have time to go out and buy normal Jenga? It's like, we're gonna fuck it, use the Pride one. We'll do it now. Use the Pride one.
Or like it just didn't sort of pop on screen enough. So like some poor kid that's there on like an internship, just being like, I don't know. I thought this was gonna be a legitimate film gig. Just had to like paint each block and was like,
oh God.
Screw you. But no, it just never gets commented on.
And when people want them, that's demand.
Is that what Dad meant when he said you're too demanding?
I also like... I don't understand why they used a Jenga block for that either. This is the supply, and when people want... The blocks are supply, and people want them, it's demand. Why is it a Jenga block?
That's how Jenga works. You famously want the blocks. You take the block out and you keep it. That's how Jenga works. And at the end, there is no tower, and that's the end of the game.
But the implication is, like, as you keep going, it becomes inherently more unstable. Like...
It's actually a very deep take on the sort of housing market and building shitty houses. Ketra Kralek is saying hi, Tom, and nice to meet you, John.
Nice to be introduced to a username.
And I also just don't know how the like, she is.
The old wife,
like,
the old ball and
like,
chain.
Joke. And like the fact she goes along with it is like that, and she's meant to be the character in this that's like happy. Like I don't know, that just like is happy and likes life and exists in this world as a fulfilled human being, and then it's like, oh, my husband fucking hates me.
There's some deep lore going on about a family, an unhappy family, and a child is gone to communism to escape the desolate home life of a man who hates his wife and a wife who hates her child.
This kid's like, mum would be happy. Mum would be happy if the patriarchy and capitalism fell. Okay.
Abolish the heteronormative nuclear family.
Marina has come up with the best take on the why the Jenga is even more confusing. In that Jenga exemplifies taking things from the bottom and adding them to the top.
Yeah.
And it topples extremely uneasily. So, but the Jenga, watching the world added, but the Jenga tower does fall like capitalism. This was great. After your debate video, was it Understanding Economics that was sort of saying, but you can also use streaming as like a form of collective knowledge production. I feel like we've done that there.
We are breaking down the barriers of one-sided knowledge production through analysis of Jenga.
Classic boomer humor. It really is. It really is. It's going for a very specific audience.
Yeah, take my wife. Take her.
Just the follow-up, the next advert, it's just this guy in his the husband in his house on his own reading the books that they're about to try and sell us, just being like...
Plot twist, it's Lawrence Fox.
I did. Lawrence has been divorced again! Billy! Lukebox is saying, do I mean unlearning economics? I did, and I've no idea what I said. It's very warm here. What did I say? I might have said anything. Who knows?
Learning economics, I think.
Did I?
Mate, I don't remember.
I sort of undid the pun. Okay, let's find out how we're going to learn about freedom.
Luckily, I now have...
That shot also lingers slightly too long to the point where they're like about to crease. Oh wait, he's going to actually have quite a lot of fun with the Jenga in the background, I think, by the looks of it.
The Tuttle Twins to help us. The Tuttle Twins is a series of books written for freedom-loving parents that teach correct principles about free markets in clear and relatable stories.
My children love learning about free markets.
What do you want to read tonight? This lovely children's book? No, I want to learn about supply and demand. What's the overhead, Mum?
It might be. I might have something. I don't know. This plot has to be very good. Twins. The Tuttle Twins.
Why? That's not a good name.
The
Tuttle Twins.
You'd have thought they'd come up with more engaging names for each book. I don't know.
Judge Dredd comes in halfway and just.
Did you have the magic key? When you were learning to read, Biff and Chip.
Yeah, I had Biff and Chip and Kipper. Yeah.
They at least that. This I feel like this is basically the magic key, but for radicalized boomers.
I'll tell you one thing I don't remember from Biff, Chip and Kipper is the plot lines.
No, I've no I don't even remember where they went. The Bigfoot Mystery, The Strange Old House, but they're good titles. That none of them are called The Law.
What do you want to read tonight, my lovely son? Mum, let's read The Law.
The Law. I want to find out about the law. Which, if you're trying to push the her whole pitch so far has been freedom. The law being a system in which you definitely trade off, in good ways and bad, but
I guess maybe they're not the libertarian brand of conservative if they're reading one on the law, unless the whole book is about how the law is bad and that's why it's so ominous. It looks like a nuclear blast is going off in the background of that. It's
It's like the opening of like Designated Survivor where they blow
Yeah.
up the.
It's or like Independence Day when the White House is about to get blown up.
And it's like the Tuttle Twins strike again.
And
Maybe
the Tuttle Twins in the desolate red barren wasteland of the former United States, clutching the last of their food.
Maybe the Tuttle Twins slowly take out the institutions of government, of big government.
Stories of right-wing terrorism. We've just blown up the White House. Hey.
Cleaning their hands after of blood after destroying a DV. Well, no, what's the equivalent of the DVLA in America? The DMV.
DMV, yeah.
No driving licenses for us.
So instead of socialists, with over 2 million.
Burn. Golden rule. Yeah, so this must be your Christian, slightly authoritarian.
Yeah.
That sort of bit.
Even that cover as well just looks like it doesn't look inviting. It looks like the cover of like a 90s comic book that's overly violent.
They're gonna kill each other. It's just like them fight. It's just them facing off against each other with a big stick each. And just
someone's eye's gonna get gouged out with a spoon or something, and you're gonna get 4 panels of really detailed viscera.
It's do unto others as you would have them do to you, and then just one of them just caving the other one's skull in.
Yeah, yes, do unto others until they would do unto you, and they become increasingly paranoid because they both hate themselves and each other.
Then only one Tuttle Twin will leave here. Oh man, what is gonna happen next? There was someone had also added some pictures. I'll try and find them in a minute. Pictures from a issue of it, I think. Oh, one of the books.
Million copies sold. These books are the best way to teach your child real-world topics not covered by most school curriculum.
Mom, I demand cookies. There's no more supply.
Oh. So if you have offspring,
just this kid's gonna starve, and it's well, at least he learned a lesson. I don't know what.
I like the implication that that the communists don't understand supply and demand. What that they're just going that we want something, but there's no supply, but we can't get our heads around this concept.
But he had the cookies at least before. Now there is no. Why is this more positive? That this poor child is not allowed cookies but has to eat. I can't even see what that one says. Serfdom. Oh my god, is this the road to serfdom? But they're in a.
Oh my god, is that Hayek?
Oh my god, it is! No, it is! I was joking! Oh my god, I was joking. It's called Road to Serfdom, but obviously surf spelt surfboard, and they're in a convertible going down. Oh my god, I need.
Whoa. So they're the heroes, right? If they're in the car on the road to serfdom, that has some implications about the type that implies they're on the road to serfdom, not you are. What?
And they're driving. Why are these children driving as well? I suppose the DMV's gone, so they've...
That's them driving away from their Red Sky again. Clearly, they've set a giant forest fire or something.
I can't. If I search for, oh, here we go. The Tuttle Twins and the Road to Serfdom. Oh my goodness! It is based on. Okay, we'll finish watching this video, and then we have to read more about the Tuttle Twins and the Road. I might buy a copy of this book, just to read it.
The miraculous pencil must be Adam Smith's stuff as well. That must be about the production of pencils.
What is there? There's Messed Up Market. There's food truck fiasco. See, some of them have got like names where you'd go, oh yeah, okay, that makes sense. Like a child would, the road to surf, like.
The laws. They couldn't think of a pun for the law.
That was like just a stand-in title. That
not like, I don't know, like legal loopholes or something. Just like the law.
It's one step from it just accidentally being called lorem ipsum because they forgot to change the. Okay, in the chat we're asking who made this clip. It's fascinating. This was just so. Adequate Emily shared this on Twitter as something that they just found on. She found on. Was I think served as an advert. I just get Nigel Farage's like things where he tells me how he's gonna get rich, and it's all like the language of Brexit, but turned into like get rich stuff. So he'll be like, "Do you want to take back control of your finances?"
I just use an ad block.
I maybe I should. It feels like destroying the industry that
Yeah.
I'm gonna turn it off for people I like and then turn it on for Zombie Ruler in the chat saying, oh, we've been talking about Tommy Robinson being ordered to pay 100k today. What's that? So that's basically he like slandered or libeled someone. I don't really know the situation. I'm presuming he called someone like a terrorist, and
I don't know. I thought from what I read earlier that it was he'd brought a libel case against someone else and then lost that case.
Oh, and they've like counter. I don't really know how suing people works.
Yeah,
but you can,
I don't know enough.
You can be like, you're not suing me, I'm suing you, can't you? And then you can. But I thought he'd been bankrupt already. I don't know how his life. Has he got Patreon? Presumably, there must be like some sort of right-wing Patreon for like people that can't get on Patreon. Okay, right. Let's fit. We have. Yeah. So sorry. So this is Adequate Emily's doing. This is not. I'm not taking credit for finding this. Okay. We need to get to the end of this, and then we need to read about the road to serfdom because it might be incredible. Like,
as someone who knows a lot about neoliberalism, I think The Road to Serfdom might be an interesting read for me.
I feel like if there was a book, I don't know, how could you do like the Communist Manifesto as a kid's book?
There have been anime versions, there have been illustrated versions of the Communist Manifesto. I think there's been some attempts at children's book versions of. I'd be amazed if there wasn't. Children's book versions of the Communist Manifesto, actually. It's like an easy enough thing to make a children's book, I reckon. Obviously. Capital, on the other hand.
just the story of one little ball of wool that wanted to become a shirt.
There's Lenin sitting there going, "Where's all my value?"
I feel like you could make it some sort of like hero's journey as it gets traded for as £10 of X get traded for 20 yards of
a magical sequence as labor imbues the linen with value.
Oh man, right, okay.
And don't want them supporting socialism? Then click the link and order the Tuttle Twins books today.
Apparently they all live in the same house.
Is that the same? No, that's different. I like the fact that Golden Rule and the Law are the two that they're like, yeah, let's put these in. They're people are gonna adore to. They're gonna be the ones that are gonna hook people in.
It really does look like stock footage for a DFS sale, though.
Yeah. It's all just like. I don't know. That sofa's probably a bit. I mean, I say this because it's very warm. I wouldn't want to be sat on that sofa in this weather.
No, not a fan of leather sofas.
Ketcher in the chat is saying offended by the use of jazz on this. I think it's funky. I think I'd use this in a video and ignore all the comments that said it was annoying. I was at my parents' house helping them to sort their books, and I found a pocket copy of the USA Constitution and the bell curve. Presumably not a pocket copy of the bell curve.
A children's version of the bell curve.
It's like every so often I remember there was like a hymn we used to sing at school that was like, the ink is black, the page is white.
I remember that.
And it was sort of like vaguely sort of like very liberal anti-racism, where it's like, can't we all get along?
Yeah.
I sometimes look back and go like, that maybe needed some thought. I have a pocket constitution. I hate being out. To be fair, I think I have a pocket UN charter of the United Nations or something from visiting the UN, which I carry with me at all times in case I need to be reminded of one of them.
In case you get shot and the pocket copy of the UN that you keep next to your heart saves your life. Thank you, UN.
Just being like, sorry, you about to war crimes me? I think you'll find if I flick through to page 62, just like little sticky notes coming out of it.
You think international law is useless? Well, this little baby stopped a bullet.
No, a hardcover. Oh no, I did the wrong thing. Hardcover, extra huge show-off copy of the bell curve, like the sort of like coffee table book you can just have laid out. So
sort of thing you could knock someone out with.
Aaron Castro is asking, are you, either of us, I assume, a fan of Hassan Piker? I've not really. I might have watched a single clip of his.
Yeah, I've only seen bits and pieces of Hassan stuff. I saw it. He watched one of my TikToks on his stream once, and that was fine. That was about the limit. I was like, it was just a bullshit thing. I was like, can you not watch one of my good videos to your massive platform instead of me pulling a face and going, fuck you to someone?
I don't think I could watch someone watching one of my videos. Someone once tweeted me and was like, watching one of your videos on stream, and I was like, thank you very. If anyone says something nice to me on Twitter, I'm always like, thank you very much. That's so kind. I go into this real like, that's very nice of you. Mode.
Yeah.
And I was like, I clicked on it very briefly and like literally just saw a still and people were talking. And I think like when Twitch comes up, you have to like unmute it. And I was like, I'm not gonna do that. I think like the vibe I got was that it was like a positive watching, but I was like,
yeah.
Even if people were saying nice things, I'd be like, make it stop.
Yeah, the only time I've ever watched someone watch one of my videos is when I had a Nazi watch one of my video on patriotism and like settler colonialism in the US. And I got a whole bunch of comments at once. I was like, this is weird. And then they were all like, debate this guy. You need to go on and stream and debate him. He's watching your video. And I was like, no thanks. And then one of the commenters replied saying, but he's a Nazi and you love debating. The left loves debating Nazis. And I was like, saying he's a Nazi isn't going to make me want to talk to him more. What are you talking about? So I went on the stream out of some morbid curiosity, and he was stopping like every few seconds, and after I'd say something, and then just going, "That's not true," and then moving on. And I was like, "Well, okay, this is what the level we're at."
I think my favorite response. I think I say this quite a lot. Like my favorite response to, generally my videos tend to start with like an assumption that we generally hold about the world, and then like dig into that assumption in some way, or like a phrase that's being thrown around in popular discourse at the moment, dig into where does that phrase come from, or like, critique it a little bit. And my favorite is like when someone like replies to a video and they're like, just watched this 40-minute video of you critiquing a sort of like broad assumption that tends to circulate in popular discourse. But have you considered, and then just repeats the assumption?
Yeah.
Like, and then and you're like, oh, fantastic.
Yeah.
Thank you. Ketra saying, I chucked out my mum's David Icke books when she went to visit family once. I didn't know. Presumably he has books. I don't.
Mm.
How was one a conspiracy theorist before the internet? Analog conspiracy theorist, like.
Yeah.
Must have just.
At least, yeah, he put in the effort. He didn't just set. He wasn't just radicalized by a stream of misinformation. He put in the effort to be radicalized.
Like, he would have had to get books published.
Yeah,
Like,
he went to the library for his lizard books.
No print on demand for David Icke. Like, he had to get stock.
Yeah.
Wasn't he a footballer? Was that his thing?
I think he was a footballer. Yeah.
Just what a wild ride. What
Yeah.
a wild ride. Okay, last couple of seconds of this beautiful advert. On my weekend with the kids, I always read them the Tuttle Twins and the Law.
Yeah. What, Dad? Why did you get a divorce? Because I wouldn't stop reading the Tuttle Twins to your mother in bed.
This is how the law unfairly victimizes men as fathers and takes away their. Okay, right. We have to find. Okay, so. So there are many issues or sort of installments, would you call them, of the Tuttle Twins?
I think publications is the right word.
Entries into the
novelizations.
Novelizations of the. I was recently sorting out books that were at my mum's house, and I was like, I definitely owned quite a lot of like novelizations of like. Jurassic Park 3 and stuff like that. Films that I like as a kid I'd never actually seen in the cinema. Like, what a weird thing to be like. Have you seen this film? Like, I've read the novelization.
For Jurassic Park as well, like there's no like, oh, I was really wondering about this character's motivation in Jurassic Park. It was really fleshed out in the novel. Like, no, he was chased by dinosaurs.
I don't think it was taken from. I don't think it was told from like the perspective of the dinosaur. Unfortunately, that would have been probably a much better book.
I mean, I wasn't implying that. That would be a wild thing to happen, but that would be worth it.
Maybe they could do like, is it Twilight where with the last book she wrote it from like the perspective of Robert Pattinson's character. Who's called Edward. I pretended not to know that so that people would not think that I had seen Twilight. But maybe they could do the same and like do. Okay.
So, like a Kafkaesque sort of examination of the character of the Tyrannosaurus Rex, thrust into this world that sees him as a monster.
I don't know why I'm in the cage. Just trying to find out what he's done wrong. As a sidebar. The Kafka Museum in Prague is legit the best museum I've ever been to. Like, it's sort of like an experience where, like, there's, like, just a room and it's just, like, a corridor of filing cabinets that you walk down. So, like, it sort of gets across the feeling of being in a cafe. Like, oh, it's so good. It's so good. Okay. The Tuttle Twins and the Road to Serfdom. Oh, can I share this with you on... Watch together. Can I do just websites? I don't know if I can. Oh, direct link. That'll be.
Is there a chat and watch together?
If not, I can Twitter it to you. I've still got Biff, Chip, and Kipper in the background because I was trying to remember some of the adventures they go on. What happens if I click on this? Does it? Nah. Okay, I'm going to send it to you on Twitter. Just double checking I was sending it to you and wasn't about to just send someone else like the Tuttle Twins and the Road to Serfdom. Like, Such good naming, though.
Yeah.
Like, when they had the idea for this, they're like, they must have just taken the afternoon off and just been like, like
the road to serfdom.
They're just like,
they're going surfing.
I don't,
Is it pronounced serfdom? Like, is that?
Don't say that as though I'm gonna know. Like,
But like, is it spelled surf-dom? Like,
yeah, I've sent you the link, and you will get a. Oh, this message failed to send. Try again. Okay, it has sent to you now.
Yeah.
Yeah, like, and serfdom, like, written on a surfboard.
Yeah.
Which is.
I want to know how that pun plays into it. How are we combining surf and surf here?
I like that. So in the chat, Watching the World has been doing the research for us and has said that Sci-Hub sadly don't have it, so you'll have to buy them, and that would involve giving questionable people money. Surely there's got to be like a second-hand market for this stuff. No one's holding on for it for too long.
Z Library, maybe? Like.
Whoa. Okay, Lich294 is saying these people unironically wrote a children's novel out of Atlas Shrugged as well.
Yes!
Do you know whether it's an entry in the Tuttle Twins saga, or is it
God, I'm so excited.
Atlas Shrugged. Sometimes I start these streams and I'm like, I don't know if there's going to be enough hashtag content to
I'm glad you thought about that before talking to me.
The internet always provides. Just any time. I'm like, what if I ask John about debate, and then he's like, yep, and then okay, so someone has written for Current Affairs an article about it. The Tuttle Twins. Oh, and the really bad case of libertarian propaganda. So it obviously does have a slightly more libertarian. Well, I guess Road to Serfdom. I guess. Okay, there is.
Libertas Institute. Yeah.
The Tuttle. Okay, the first book of the series. The Tuttle Twins learn about the law. So the law is the first one. Oh, so they're all based. I think they are literally all based on, like, works of sort of right-wing scholarship, and so it wouldn't.
The fifth book in the acclaimed Tuttle Twins series brings F.A. Hayek's The Road to Serfdom to life. Acclaimed by whom? I'd be interested in.
The Tuttle Twins and the Miraculous Pencil. The kids learn the staple economist story that no one knows how to make a pencil because all of its components are made in different places around the world. I think you were correct there. The Road to Serfdom. Dedicated to little-known selfless philanthropist Charles Koch, the Tuttle family is dismayed to find the road to their beach house is highly congested and the stores nearby are closing down. Ethan and Emily like playing at the beach, but they loved shopping at La Playa Lane. The displeased vacationing white family soon learned that a few years ago, voters approved a master transportation plan, which in addition to building a new road to another beach town nearby, bizarrely closed off the existing road. This is the kind of contrived parody of public planning that market fundamentalists imagine is to blame for capitalism's problems.
Oh, but this is brilliant though. It is such a brilliant illustration of how neoliberal economic policy is inherently anti-democratic. What a great example of how they've fucked themselves there. The voters chose the wrong thing. There should be no control of any planning by democratic means. This is really highlighting the inherent trend to authoritarianism of neoliberalism. Brilliant stuff, Tuttle Twins.
So the kids then go to work with their uncle, an alleged journalist, and interviews soon show the big government road. I don't know whether that's what it's called in the book or whether that's Our writer Rob Larson for Current Affairs calling it that. Big government road has caused unintended consequences, damn it. From lowering home values on the old road to raising traffic near the new one. I hate it when I build a road and traffic uses it. And the state used eminent domain to build the highway through a family dairy farm. Family dairy farms being a famously profitable business which never involves government support.
Yeah, and everybody owns their own second beach house.
100% Bill Gates owns the land on which that farm exists, and like half of the costs of running the farm are paid for by the government subsidy. Businesses closing on the family's favourite beach can't afford to move to the other beach town, serfdom, and the rents there are very high for businesses that can. This is blamed on central planning when a few people make decisions for everybody, even though the story indicates there was a public vote.
So that's what I'm saying. This is what a good illustration of that central contradiction of neoliberalism.
Also, like, the fact that the problem really is that you don't have a system which makes both of those places nice to be.
Yeah.
Right? One of them becomes the place that is the nice one and has all the investment and all the businesses want to be, and the other one is the one that gets abandoned and all its infrastructure destroyed. Like,
there's some artificial scarcity going on. I wonder if there's any sort of economic system which speaks to that phenomenon.
So it's called the Atlas Network. I think, is this the people who publish it?
I do enjoy making fun of children's books.
It's much easier than having to do a critique of the road to SERF.
I mean,
DOM. To
be honest, it's not that much different. like you're maybe a Nobel laureate economist, but you're still shite.
The Atlas Network. I don't. Maybe do these people publish it, or are they just writing about it? Okay, the Atlas Shrugged one. Okay, I've worked out which one is Atlas Shrugged now. Okay, let's go to... Where's this article about? Oh, just the road... So it's called The Search for Atlas is the one that's based on Atlas Shrugged. But just the name, The Road to Serfdom, just fills me with joy.
It's a real good one.
Okay, so I think this is going to be like a...
It's literally about a road. Fucking dipshits.
just brainstorming that one in the writer's room from the Tuttle Twins.
They've got a whiteboard. They've got some road to serfdom written down. Going, where do we thread this needle? The road to serfdom. What if there's an actual road?
It's like the Libertas Institute and the Atlas Network. Like, they've just got like about 3 names that they just call everything. And like, I'll make it a bit more Latin this time. The farm had never owned that land. Like,
yeah. I mean, farms famously are owned by a lot of the time, big corporate farmers.
So the writer is a California native and Brigham Young University graduate. Connor currently resides in Lehi, who knows, Utah, with his wife and 2 children. I love author bios and the way they always end with currently lives in town with his wife and 2 children.
Yeah, currently is estranged from his wife and 2 children.
Without his wife or 2 children. Oh my god, so this backstory is amazing. 3 years ago, I scoured the internet looking for literature that would teach my young kids the idea of liberty. I just love the idea of him going through and going, I just can't find an accessible version of The Road to Serfdom for children. What is wrong with, I would have thought that the free market would have provided that for him. Yeah. There was basically nothing. No books that I could buy. So we started creating them through the Tuttle Twins series, where each book is based on a classic liberty text. Mm-hmm. I love liberty texts, such as Bastiat's The Law, Leonard Read's I, Pencil, Hazlitt's Economics in One Lesson, and more. The books have been selling like crazy, helping us reach an entirely new generation, brackets, and their parents, many of whom are not familiar with these books or ideas. Yeah, because it's like, the intention is that it like slips in, isn't it?
Yeah.
That it gets into the bookshop and someone accidentally buys it, and their kid is then reading the work of Hayek.
Imagine accidentally buying this book thinking it was like a fun schoolboy adventure about like going surfing, and then suddenly your children's book's about government public policy on roads. Like, what the fuck is this?
Do you know what? My niece loves surfing.
Yeah,
This looks great. A book about a whole town built around surfing. She is gonna love this.
I bet there's a competition between the surfers.
They're currently being translated into other language. I mean, it's like VeggieTales, isn't it? But for like libertarians, I think. But the idea is that you tune in for the fun Tuttle Twins, who, if I can make this picture bigger, look pretty cool.
Yeah.
They've sort of like pretty
sunglasses,
cool.
Hawaiian
They're
shirt.
leaning on the front of the car which they're driving. How
Oh my
old
god, these
are they?
illustrations are bad.
How old are these children then? Maybe they're not children. Maybe they're just twins that hang out because no one wants to listen to them.
Yeah. Oh my god. We're throwing a party in university. Shall we invite such and such? Oh no, if we invite them, they'll bring the Tuttle Twins along, and then we'll get fucking hours of. They'll try to talk to us about Frederick Hayek again. Last time I invited them, the Tuttle Twins cornered me. They were talking about the road to serfdom for 4 hours.
Can't even go to the beach with them without them going on about about eminent domain. I do love like it reveals something. I think like going back to the advert itself, there's definitely something about the way in which they presume that children are doing politics in a way that like they're I don't know, what is it that their children are doing that they're like, my child is not just doing a thing, they are doing a socialism, like, and that therefore their child needs to actually learn about.
Like most children's books are pretty like.
We must see.
From what I imagine, from what I remember, are just like standard be nice and share.
And they're like, oh, not again. They won't get my child. I can't. What is it? The butcher does not put bread on the plate out of anything but their own self-interest. Like, what?
That hungry. Where does the hungry caterpillar get all of his food? The invisible market. That's where.
It just really doesn't go to. There's also apparently John Oliver has an episode on chicken farmers, which sort of takes apart the sort of mom and pop dairy farms idea. I mean, yeah. How many? The thing I'm really interested in at the moment is B corporations. I feel like I'm always trying to buy nice things. I don't know, trying to buy things from like good places, and everywhere's a B corporation. But I'm not entirely sure what that means, and whether that's like actually good or whether it's like, you know, a bit of a sort of smoke screen.
I've never heard of it.
It's sort of like, I think it's mostly a US thing. I think Patagonia is a B corporation apparently. So it's the company that makes the shoes that I bought, which I can't remember what they were called. And I'm like, yeah, how, like, to what extent is it just like a vague nod towards doing some nice things?
Yeah, I can answer that.
We've got some debate in the chat about John Oliver. I've watched not for quite a while. I've watched the occasional thing, and I quite
Yeah.
enjoy it. It's quite informative.
It's about the best that you can get on TV, right?
Yeah.
You're not gonna get John Oliver coming out and saying, and that's why we have to obliterate the United States and all the capitalist pigs. Like, you're not gonna get that on HBO, no matter how much leeway they're giving him.
Yeah, I quite like Patriot Act as well. That like, I think like both of them have like the occasional assumption about how the world works, which they can't dislodge, but like, are generally quite informative. Like the facts are generally, correct. I think I was watching in your, I can't remember which one of your videos it is, where you showed the clip of I'm gonna try and find it. The clip of him chatting to Jimmy Fallon. Them have like and
oh Christ, yeah.
Jimmy Fallon mentions no John Oliver brings up
That's the Alexa stuff, isn't it?
Yeah, you might have to, if you have one of these devices in your house, you may have to stop it from talking to Jeff Bezos for a moment. I'm not going to watch Hassan Piker reacting to it, because then that will just be like...
like 4 hours for a 30-second clip.
I have previously, like, someone shared a clip of a stream to Twitter, and it's been like, and the only clip of a video they've managed to find is clearly like someone else streaming it, and you're watching it, you're just there like, who am I watching here? Like, who is the final sort of streamer? I've just copied the name of the video. I need the okay. Okay, let me find the advert for Raid Shadow Legends. Have you reached the stage where you get asked if you want to do a sponsorship slot for Raid Shadow Legends yet?
Oh, I'm way too small for the raids. The raids big time. Yeah, I think.
Get ready for that. That's okay. Right, can I find the bit? I talk about leprechauns. Oh, you can't really. It must be towards the end, surely. So this is amazing.
Great
content.
You know what they say?
Great content.
What they say? Always have dead air. That's what they say for streams. Always have a bit of dead air so the chat has a
Oh, okay. We might be streaming again. I've got literally like nothing is working for me though. So I will have to let me know in the chat, and once I found the chat, I can confirm whether I've managed to get things working again, and then I will try and get John back on the line as well. Sorry, everyone. Watching the World has said, and we're back, which I'm hoping means that things are working. Ketra saying hello. Axel saying hiya. So maybe this is happening. Let me very quickly get our chat window. Should be working. We can hear you and see you on mic. Amazing. I'm gonna call John and see if I can get him back on the line. Apologies about that. I think it's a rogue device in my kitchen. Hello, John. How are you?
Hello.
Well, that was fun.
Yeah.
That was everything just went like, I'm sure it's fantastic for the only camera that I have and the only like computer. Like, I'm sure it's just great for the electricity just to stop like that. I'm sure it really like just works it, just reminds it that it's alive.
I just assume because my internet's terrible, and at any time I'm on some sort of call or doing any sort of stream, at one point my internet will fail. So I just assumed it was me.
Me again. Can I? What do I need? I need the chat window. Oh, and I need to make you visible again. Okay, that's not what I wanted to do. Maybe this is going to become... Okay, you are appearing. That's something.
I have returned.
Is this working? This is anything that involves... no, that's you. Again, just amazing content.
You see
watch
that
someone...
Yeah, it's exciting for me as a smaller creator to just come on here and watch a master at work.
I'm glad, I really like to... oh, John is very loud, apparently.
Oh, man, again.
I'm going to turn you down. I've turned you down. Let me know if that...
is this any better?
Helps. We can see less red and more John now. Oh, yeah, no, I had forgotten to sort of make you appear again. Can't get the chat up? That's not. It doesn't want that. What doesn't want to do that, does it? It's not interested in that at all. I can't remember what we were talking about before. We were so rudely interrupted.
I think it was the John Oliver thing that was on the watch together.
Oh, yeah. Okay, yeah. After me spending all this time setting up the stream again, what we're not going to do is then watch me try and find the John Oliver thing to watch. Okay, the chat is not going to appear on the screen because it just doesn't want to be honest.
Yeah.
Who knows? Who knows why it won't do that? Can I, get the chat in a... Okay, I can get it up in a tab in Firefox. It's not the dream. But it sort of works. That's it. I can also type in it. Oh no, I need to sign in, so I can't. I mean, it's happening. Just technical marvel.
Life is compromise, and
usually, I think Watching the World was saying in the whilst everything was off, was saying that Virgin's gone again. Usually it is my internet, just once every stream, just goes for a minute and then comes back. Just
same for mine. Anytime I'm on a stream, just goes. Actually, the internet was off 2 minutes before I joined the first Skype call. I was like, oh shit! I'm not gonna cancel the last minute because of the shitty internet.
I feel like it's just like a little power play that it does, just to be
just to remind you who's in charge here.
No, we were talking talk shows, weren't we? And John Oliver, and who I've not watched any of his whilst he's been in lockdown because
I think the only thing I've seen of him for ages is the bit he did with Adam Driver about wanting Adam Driver to punch a hole in his chest and grab his heart and crush his bones like a massive shed. And Adam Driver got involved. That was quite fun.
Because I don't think he's in Community and that. I don't find him to be a very good actor. I love something. Ketra is saying, "Lol, as an engineer, I'm proud of this functional solution." We have, what do they call it? Tape, sort of gaffer taped. Duct tape. It's not even duct tape. It's pretty good. Duct taping. That's what they call it. Yeah. Where you solve a problem in some ways. Very much our solution to the climate emergency. Sort of duct taping. We have had in last week's stream we were talking about the who went up into space last week. Branson did it last week, didn't he? And Jeff Bezos went up.
Just yesterday,
week,
or
I believe
the day before, yeah.
Where's that watch together thing? Am I still in it? That's my name. Okay. Let me try and find...
Welcome back to...
It is, as one would imagine, completely underwhelming in every single way.
It was it was really phallic blast off as well. It was more than most rockets were. It looked like it was designed specifically.
It's the fact it's sort of rounded to avoid sort of snacks or anything.
T-minus 10, 9, 8, 7.
One
6,
thing that I
5,
find
4. Command engine start. 2.
So immature, but man.
So, like, sort of surprised it's not flared at the bottom.
What?
Shepherd cleared the tower.
And New Shepherd has cleared the tower.
There he goes.
On her way to space.
Most of the time when you watch these, I mean, particularly the SpaceX ones, this is about the point at which they explode.
Yeah.
I love. I sort of like. Obviously, I actually hate it, but I choose to sort of tell myself that I love it. Is the way in which just the pure sycophantic reporting of this stuff and I mean, with the SpaceX stuff, like, the commentator will be telling you how amazing it is that they've launched a rocket whilst you're watching it explode, and you're like, but you're like, yeah, technically they have launched a rocket.
There was...
That is undoubtable.
Yeah. There was a science show with Brian Cox on a few weeks ago that was, like, made up of previous shows that he's done. And at one point during it, he said... he started talking about how it was his great privilege to interview Jeff Bezos once to talk about the future of the economy and of space. And he then sort of goes on this big, long, glowing explanation of how Jeff Bezos has this wonderful vision of moving all production off Earth onto Mars to preserve the Garden of Eden of Earth. And you're just sitting there going, Brian Cox, unblock me so I can call you a dick. Like...
Has he blocked you?
He blocked me on Twitter for the worst, stupidest reason ever. It was like it was during what's his face? You know the Tory Rory Stewart. It was during Rory Stewart's Tory leadership campaign, and all the sort of liberal dipshits were like, he's a good Tory. He's one of the good Tories. And Brian Cox.
I think we might need to context for this for international viewers. Every time I try and do context for something, it takes about half an hour. I'll try not to do that. But essentially, before Boris Johnson was Prime Minister, there was a leadership for election for the leadership of the Conservative Party, which I guess is a bit like it's 100% not like a primary, but let's just pretend it is now, just so we don't have to talk about this forever. And there was a guy called Rory Stewart who... just comedy gold, just absolute, like, but if you were like a centrist who, couldn't vote Labour because Jeremy Corbyn was in charge, you had to pretend to think this guy was like a sensible, legitimate,
actually quite progressive, actually.
That Mr. Afghanistan heroin guy was like a really sensible guy. And his whole thing was like that he's on your street and he's coming to say hello to you, and he's gonna stay in your house. Can you remember that?
Yeah,
this was like just before COVID. He was gonna come and stay in his thing. Like his leadership campaign was he was gonna stay in people's house. Like
it was bizarre. Else. The whole thing was bizarre. But he had this whole thing throughout the campaign where people kept there was loads of rumors that he'd been involved with MI6 in Iraq and Afghanistan because he was an army colonel, I think, in Iraq and Afghanistan.
I think he was basically in charge of he was basically the colonial overlord of Afghanistan for some time.
And he kept and people kept asking, "Oh, were you involved with MI6?" And he would never say no. He would always be quite coy, which could mean like he was just playing it for politics. Could mean he was involved with MI6. Either way,
he's the kind of guy that if he wasn't involved in MI6, he's fucking gutted about it. Yeah, and he's like, I've talked to them. They
got my emails.
He's probably coming from a completely different angle of like, well, I'm not going to admit. Yeah, no, sort of bit. Do you know what I mean? He thinks everyone wants him to be like an active asset for MI6. Yeah.
So Brian Cox was tweeted out saying whatever you might think of a politician talking about their military record with anything other than commendations and glowing commendations is not on and unbecoming of political discourse. And I replied to him saying, this is a guy who wants to be prime minister. We know torture took place in these contexts. We know MI6 was involved. We know our military was involved. We know he had a position. I think it's important if we know he knew about torture. And he just blocked me. Well, I'm glad we've got such an open political discourse, Mr. Things can only get fucking better.
Nah, we don't like hearing about that. We just want him to... Oh, okay, I found... Oh, no, because he was about... Oh, because he was a Mayor of London candidate for a bit. This was it. So after he didn't get the leadership of the Conservative Party, he was going to... I don't know if he actually ran, but he was going to run at least for Mayor of London. And so his campaign was... so here we go. Here's an article in the Metro. Rory Stewart wants to spend the night at your place.
Buy me dinner first, Rory.
This is incredible. It's just like so. Oh my god, so many ads on this webpage. I can't. Okay, here we go. Here's the article. Rory Stewart wants to get to know Londoners better by sleeping on their sofas. The independent Mayor of London candidate has launched an online campaign called "Come Kip with Me," in which he asks those in the capital to let him stay the night. In a video accompanying the initiative, he admitted it was a weird request, but said it would be the best way for him to get to know everywhere in the city. Stewart stated that he had already stayed with a woman named Lorraine in Newham and a young man in Streatham. I love the way that that's quoted. He continued... Please have me to stay with your family, or just in your home, seeing your borough. Promise to bring a sleeping bag and a box of chocolates. And so this was the guy that was like, everyone had to, if you were a centrist who 100% wanted the Tories to win the election, but had to pretend you didn't like Boris Johnson, or maybe you didn't like the sort of, Boris Johnson sort of does open racism rather than being a colonial overlord of Afghanistan. So you have to pretend that this sort of... He doesn't even have divorced energy. He sort of just has
it's just bizarre. It's very desperate.
It's sort of the kids have left home energy, I feel, and is sort of rediscovering himself a bit. So you sort of had to pretend that this was the sensible guy. Oh, he also didn't like Brexit, of course, and that was just... Both the debate surrounding Brexit for anyone that's not in the UK just completely broke the UK to a level which is hard to explain. Completely just destroyed it.
It's also desperate. Everything about it was please have me stay in your house. I'll bring you some chocolates. I'll have my own sleeping bag. You won't even know I'm there.
There's a really funny gallery of 4 photos of him do it because his thing was he was gonna. Oh, it was Rory Walks, I think was his thing. Yeah,
that's what he called it, Rory Walks.
He was walking down streets and talking to people on the street and being like, "Hey," and most people are obviously I'm just trying to get up. I'm just trying to get my shopping. Actually, can you leave me alone? And then he uploaded to. I'm pretty sure it was him that uploaded to Twitter. 4 photos of him. Being here's some people I met today, and it's 3 of them are him with white people, just being and then the one that's with this black guy, he's just it's just
so funny.
Just what a guy!
Yeah,
what a character! What with him and Joe Swinson? I know those few years where we just had all the elections were sort of crazy in many ways, but be glad don't be sad that it ended. Be happy that it happened. Whatever the phrase is.
You needed because of the sheer misery and pure grinding nature of it. You needed some mad shit to get you through, and the Liberal Democrat leader hunts squirrels with a slingshot of stones. is up there.
He's just Lich294 is saying he's just homeless and trying to leverage his political capital to find a place to stay. He's gonna come and become the colonial overlord of your house. Yeah, no. What was the thing? There was a whole thing about what was the whole heroin thing?
Oh yeah, when he talked about someone, they ask questions like, "Have you ever done drugs and stuff?" And he said that he'd smoked opium in a house in Afghanistan once just because he was offered it. And he said, I think he said he didn't much like it, and it's like, come on, Rory, we know you liked it. You don't. Nobody takes opium and goes, it's a little bit more like too much for me.
Like just his whole vibe was just like someone sort of setting a trap for him, and then him like taking the trap, making it sort of more effective, and then like laying himself on it. Like I don't know, like. The more recent example of that, that question that gets asked all the time. I mean, it's like Barack Obama saying that, like, what is it? He smoked weed but didn't inhale it.
I think that was Clinton. I think Obama fully admitted to it.
Yeah. There's, I don't know, Keir Starmer on his, like, Piers Morgan thing was like, I'm not going to tell you whether I did drugs or not at all. And, like, it was just like, just be like, yeah.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, I fully believe Keir Starmer said that because he didn't want to admit that he's never done any drugs in his life. Like at parties, he'd be offered drugs, be like, I thank you for your offer of drugs in this party environment, but I will have to decline.
Got like his black X tattooed on his hand. Yeah, and that's sort of what's expected, isn't it? That they sort of quiver and stuff. But Rory Stewart's like, I smoked opium.
Yeah, I smoked opium while I was oppressing the people of Afghanistan.
But the thing is, people sort of like respected him more for saying that than. Oh my goodness, he took opium at a party. Like, just what a amazing way to not want to cause offence is by just going, oh no, okay, I'll do a little bit of the opium.
It would be rude not to.
Oh no, Steam and PSN apparently in the last 15 minutes have stopped working as gamers hit by huge outage.
Uh-oh.
Do you think I broke the internet when the computer?
The gamers will come for you.
Whatever the thing is in the kitchen that keeps making our electricity go,
it gets connected to Steam somehow.
Wait. The mook in the chat is saying that they asked another MP, swear it was Tony Blair, and he said he'd been given LSD at a party whilst in uni. They put it onto my strawberry flan.
I don't know if it was Tony Blair. I have heard stories of MPs having acid flashbacks in the House of Commons. Again, I don't believe Tony Blair would be the type who would do LSD. That he's a fucking coke man. Look at him.
He's now like a
child blood man.
Adrenaline every morning to keep him going, to just sort of see him through the day until they lower him back into the coffin to sleep at night. He is the first time I ever heard of Rory Stewart was when he was the prisons minister, and he made this. You know how he's want to do? He's made to like big declarative statements about things will be so much better. So he made this big statement saying, like, in 1 year's time, if I haven't solved the prisons crisis, I'll resign. Then it got to a month before that pledge was made, and he got reshuffled into a different position. Just to save the government any embarrassment. They'll just be like, fuck sake, Rory, we were never meant to solve this. You're meant to go on and talk some shite and get it over with, not make any commitments. Especially when you're the prisons guy. No one, there's about 10 people in the country that are like, oh, I wonder who's the prison minister at the moment.
I don't even think if they have one at the moment.
They just sort of forget that. This is kind of related. My mind jumped. This is sort of related. My current theory is that you could, and maybe they're in the process of doing it, is that you could 100% abolish the police in the UK as long as you kept. I don't know if you have these up where you are, but as long as you kept those cardboard cutouts in like the supermarkets and the train stations that they have, because I feel like most people that really want like the sort of like tough on crime vibes never actually see any police officers anyway. All they see is there's one at Morrison's near me where what is it? They just have cardboard cutouts of police officers.
But I've never seen that up in Scotland. I just think it's such a funny. It's like putting the TV on to keep the dog company. Like it's such a funny way to do justice.
It's very like the sort of I can't find. Okay, so I think it's very much broken windows sort of logic. I think it's that like nudge stuff where they're like, actually, if people see a cardboard cutout of a police officer, they will remember that there exists the police force, and they will not do the crime they were about to do.
Yeah. What a fun way to think about the reasons for crime. I like to think that it might actually be that they're not even thinking about it like that. They're thinking about like, oh, people might forget that laws exist. It's like, oh shit, the police is there. We actually don't steal. That's what it is.
I can't. Okay, all I can find is where's this window? Okay. Oh no, I found a bunch of different. So, sorry, the best news story related to this. I need to get this up because the visual shock of seeing the headline is amazing. Someone in Warwickshire stole the cardboard cutout of the police officer. Detectives are. Oh, this is like a local. Like, if you're a local journalist, this is the kind of story you absolutely live for. Crooks steal cardboard cop from Warwickshire police station. Detectives are looking for a missing person after cheeky crooks stole a cardboard cop from a Midlands police station. All right, so here's like a picture of one. Yeah, basically, like you go to the supermarket and they're always like in weird places where you like turn a corner and you're like, oh my god, and you're like, oh okay, and they're like just like sort of looking at you, and they're
like a vacant smile on their face.
But the force valued the fake community support officer at 150 quid. Oh my god! Sorry, this police, what do you call it? This police force, this like Warwickshire police, I've had loads of stuff nicked. Like, this is not. If you're someone that's like the police stop crimes from happening, this is not particularly good statistics. A police flag was stolen from a station, whilst helmets, flat caps, and clothing have also been taken. A police bike valued at 800 quid was never found.
Oh my god.
A patrol car was later recovered. Just imagine walking, like, you're like 20 minutes late back from your like beat or whatever, and then you just walk through the door and they're like, oh, I thought you'd come in the back way from the car park, and you're just like, oh, you'll never guess what happened.
Like, you stop to get like a sandwich from the Sainsbury's and park your police bike outside, and see someone nick it, and you're just running after them shouting, you can't steal from me, we're the police.
Camcorders, sat-nav systems, and radios have also been taken from vehicles. Like, just this stuff is like...
I'm amazing. That's praxis.
Leicester Police lost £4,384 of property to thefts, including an electronic breathalyzer, lead roofing, and police jackets and caps.
Lead roofing.
Going for the lead roofing from the police station is like... That is pretty,
bold.
You know, yeah.
Oh my
who
god.
was just saying that, Oketcha is saying that they read the book, a book written by one of the people who helped set up the Nudge unit. Is that still going? That was like a Tory thing, wasn't it? Of setting up. Who wrote the the sort of pop science book about Nudge? Isn't the book just called like Nudge or something? And it's all about how if you do the little counterintuitive thing, actually everything changes massively.
Yeah.
Richard H. Thaler and Cass R. Sunstein. We're gonna sneeze.
I don't know how I don't know how I forgot those names. They're very memorable. Richard H. Kallman and Susan Sondheim.
Yeah, it's all just it is this like it's the idea that we all make bad choices, but if you can do a little thing. Yeah, according to a Freedom of Information request to Nottinghamshire Police, Nottinghamshire Police bought approximately 156 cutout cops. 5 of them got sold to retailers.
Okay.
Like
I thought
merch?
not individuals. Like,
is this merch? 5 units were damaged beyond use / stolen.
it's so good.
It's like sort of students doing traffic cones, but like the next level is nicking the cardboard cutout police officer.
The fun you could have with a cardboard cutout police officer in a student village.
They can't tell you how much they spent though.
No, that would be too much.
Okay, so what does it say? So the effect on crime. So these units are out on divisions and are utilised at the division's discretion. I'm guessing a division is like a smaller, like I don't know, like a station's worth of police officers or whatever. Advice is to have them in situ for approximately 3 weeks and move them around so they don't become fixture and fittings blending into the background. Feedback from beat teams and stores are that thefts reduced 20 to 40% when cutouts have been used in problem shops. To that end, we do not have any actual stats to produce. Okay, so that's just like shops going 20 to 40%. I don't know.
Great analysis. I always trust the figures coming out from the police stations about the usefulness of their own procedures.
And then just to go we don't have any actual stats, but that's just some guy in a shop going, "Oh, don't take my cardboard cutout. Don't take Fred." Like that thing in a student flat where it's just become part of the thing, and you're like, "Oh, that's Jeff." Just stapling bags of Nobby's nuts to it, so that you take them off at a pub where it's got the
I'm gonna get a police officer, a cardboard cutout police officer from a student flat to reduce the theft of my food from the fridge 20 to 40% by it.
Oh man, just weird times we live in.
I mean, it's not the worst thing that the police could be occupying their time with. If we could get them to do more of just buying and placing cardboard cutouts around everywhere instead of anything else, then maybe that would work.
But I totally think that the people who are most keen on more and more police never actually come into contact with any real police anymore. It's just the cardboard cutouts. So what you do is you just have the cardboard cutouts, and they're like, well, the real police must be putting this here, and they must be on the bad side of town.
This must be showing they're really active in law and order.
I think you did did you do a video on police abolition?
Yeah, about a year ago now. It's quite an old one.
What's your favourite of your videos you've made? Do you have one?
I think so far, I think the one on human rights is the best video. I think it's entertaining and it's tight and stuff. But I think in terms of an essay if I was like saying, looking at like the content and just like an essay wise, the necropolitics video is, I think, a really good essay that works really well in bringing lots of things together and doing something new and interesting. So it's between those two, I think.
That was good. That was very much like a term I had seen thrown about a lot that I'd never done any reading on. I thought that was really interesting.
Yeah.
Particularly in the present moment.
Yeah.
Like there's a whole thing at the moment about how, like, literally the amount of deaths has been pretty much the only thing the government has been focusing on as their like metric of anything.
Yeah.
And like, so yeah, making all the decisions on whether to vaccinate kids and stuff has just been like, what will the numbers of people dead look like?
Or like, yeah, just shoving a whole vulnerable populations in care homes and just letting it tear through certain populations who are less valued. It's like, it's a very useful term for the kind of politics of the moment.
Yeah, it is. I've been thinking a lot about, like, I got my first vaccine, well, a little, I don't know, good few number of weeks ago now. And yeah, just like, no, this is a slightly different point, but like my whole like, it was one of those things where you have like yeah, I've got my vaccine, then like instantly you're like, yeah, but like lots of people aren't allowed, like lots of people don't.
Yeah.
Like it's going to be a long time because
my mum's a vaccinator and is saying that they're just gonna have to dump a whole load of vaccines coming up because it's just about to pass the August expiry date for them. And it's just such a miserable situation to have so much of the world unable to get hands on vaccines, and we're just dumping them in this country.
Because Ketra is saying that they are saving your all your videos in their watch later list. I've recently discovered the watch later function on YouTube, and yeah, it's quite handy. I don't know how to get things off of it though, so
I've never used that.
Someone help me. Help me, people who know how YouTube works. But like, yeah, because like getting rid of the sort of trip stuff, the like patent stuff, just sort of seemed to peter out. Like it had like really big backing. Like, I don't know, like even like Biden was up for it, and then he just decided to like buy some from Pfizer to give to other places. Which
I don't know what happened.
I think like the great sort of grift is going to be donating vaccines because like yeah, like what happens when the Gates Foundation donates vaccines? Do they buy them from themselves and then like it's like
I guess that in France, in Wretched of the Earth, when Fanon talks about how aid is being treated as a gift when really it's just a return of a partial amount that's already stolen from the global south. It's like those vaccines are already being hoarded and then just being given as if it's something that should be grateful for.
And apparently, I was reading, this was in the Divide, I'm still reading the Divide. There was a part about how sort of TRIPS, which is the intellectual property bit that sort of governs that kind of stuff, used to be like the something about like the manufacture that was the bit that you could sort of own. But if you found another way to make a vaccine, that was okay. But now it is like the molecular, like at the molecular level, that is what like Pfizer or whoever owns. And so even if you find out how to do it yourself, you can't use that because they own the, way, I'm not good at chemistry, the way in which all the bits are connected with the balls and the
all the bonds. Covalence,
yeah. I can't remember. I could not tell you what covalence is at all.
I'm not going to pretend I can understand.
I've completely blocked all of that from my. That's just gone out my head many years ago.
there was a period in school when I did like mainly sciences in school because all through my life everyone was like, you're just like your bloody father. I was like, well, he's into social science, so I'm gonna do science. And then in my sixth year I was like, I'm just gonna do social science. I know my strengths.
I got bit of discussion of the Gates Foundation in the chat. It's almost like all of the, I don't know, like Oxford University in particular, because they talked up massively about how they were gonna like give it to the world, the vaccine, and then they just sort of decided to do eugenics instead.
That Bill Gates convinced them not to.
Oh, like the bit. So I've got like a sort of probably like Bill Gates vaccine. Like sometimes when you're like, I definitely find this. Sometimes I'm making a video and I'm like one step in the wrong direction, and this is a completely not so conspiracy like conspiracy video. But like one of my favorite. I've sort of got a Bill Gates vaccines video on the go, on the sort of not anywhere near it actually being done, but I've sort of been gradually thinking about it. What's the channel called? There is a great interview. So there's an interview with the educational YouTuber Veritasium, who is a science guy,
Right.
but is like I don't know, cool, I guess. I don't know, like sort of science guy that looks like he's done sports.
This isn't like, your dad's science guy.
Like, and sort of is conventionally attracted. Like, where's the watch together thing? Here it is.
Has he got fashionable stubble?
A bit. It's like a bit more than stubble. It's like a short beard. Is it coming up? Right, slow down. I'm gonna refresh the. How am I gonna go about doing this? Do I need to refresh the page? Come on.
It's just all I'm seeing right now is Bezos's dick rocket.
The thing I love about the dick rocket is that it's named after Alan Shepard, who was like the first American in space. But Alan Shepard went up into space in like the 50s. Alan Shepard actually went higher up into space than Jeff Bezos did yesterday. Day before, something like that.
Whenever. Time is a flat circle.
As is his sort of spaceship thing. It's so unimpressive. Like both his and Branson's are just so unimpressive.
Yeah.
Okay, come on. Why won't this look? Oh, sorry, I've got to click on the video.
So how did it feel to make this?
So this Veritasium guy is like but he's like cool. He wears shirts and has AirPods, but also knows about science. And so he does this interview with Bill Gates, and like I don't know whether I don't think it's a video that has been like sponsored by them, I don't know what the scenario is. At the very least, I think that the Gates Foundation and Bill Gates himself are like counting on the fact that he will be so in awe of the fact he's managed to get an interview with Bill Gates that it will like I would be surprised if if they didn't get like a final cut of
I think I had an article I was reading for the Necropolitics video on Bill Gates and all of his media shit. I'll send it to you afterwards. I think they talked about the way that Bill Gates actually does interact with these like YouTubers and stuff to try and like, launder his dog shit image.
Well, at the very least, he knows that they don't have like an editorial, like as bad as the media is, like generally they like the smell of their own farts, and they like have these editorial systems that exist where in some cases, in the best possible scenario, like there are sort of checks and balances where there is a fact checker and someone will go all you know, maybe there needs to be you need to push him harder here or whatever. And someone in the chat, the Mook was saying Veritasium has been a good guy for a long time. Did he shill? Like, I'm not saying that this reflects on anything outside this particular video that I've seen. I'm sure I've seen one of his videos and he seemed like a sort of I don't know, nice guy, but but he's not a good interviewer of Bill Gates. So essentially, like, at the very least, it's the Gates Foundation or Bill Gates' own personal publicist or Bill Gates, like, they're at the very least relying on the idea that all of these YouTubers that get to interview him, that they're going to just softball him because they're just really glad to have Bill Gates, and they want Bill Gates to come on again, don't they? Because, you know, like, I don't know, a newspaper isn't going to do that because Bill Gates has to sort of talk to them because they sort of have to. So he sort of talks about, he sort of, you know, asks him loads of questions, and they're all like, oh, is it difficult saving the world all the time? Is it tiring?
What's it like being Superman?
Like, yeah, they're all sort of like, or they're like asking him for his expertise on like pandemics, which is like, he's not like, I don't know. He gave a TED talk, right?
He's a computer engineer who's probably not updated his understanding of software since like 1997. He basically runs a business.
But because he invented Windows, he's like, I can be an expert on anything. But like, there's this part, where is it? Where he's suddenly like, okay, like, we've asked him some questions.
I'm back on my second channel. I made a video called Be Hated, which was kind of about my thoughts about pushing back against misinformation.
Okay, so at some point, this guy's like, okay, I'm going to change things up a bit now, and we're going to ask some slightly... He sort of implies they're going to be sort of tough questions, but he just goes, okay, we're going to talk about misinformation. And he, you know, says he's going to pitch some of these questions to Bill Gates. I think this clip is going to show something useful and or interesting, I believe.
And that we should see anything that is wrong in the world, and we should do our best to fight it. So you should not be liked by everyone, because there are some people out there with bad ideas and you should be pushing back against them. That was essentially my thought. But since then, I feel like my views have softened a little, and now I think of our pushing back against misinformation a little bit like an immune system. Obviously, it's a problem if your immune system is weak, if it doesn't respond to anything. But it's also a problem if your immune system is too strong. You know, during the 1918 flu pandemic, there's a really interesting distribution of...
Science YouTubers have a habit of just saying lots of things sometimes, and you're like, these things are not necessarily... Yeah. You're so far in your metaphor that...
different things are different.
Yeah, like, you can't compare. There's definitely a great... there was a video ages ago by, is it Vsauce, I think, is like a educational, and it was this really long video, a bit loud, Axel saying, thank you for letting me know, Axel, that's really useful. It's really, really long video, and people in the chat, which was actually sponsored by the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. But the whole thing was that, but it just like was just a bundle of ideas which didn't really connect to one another, but like it sort of sounds a bit clever because it's so many things. But if you're the kind of person that tries to find an argument in something, you're just like, what? Like, so I think he does that a little bit. But the question he asks in a minute, I think, is really interesting.
Deaths, where the young and old were more likely to die, obviously because they have weak immune systems, but also people in the sort of 25 to 35-year-old range, because their immune systems were just so strong, they were overactive, and that ended up resulting in mortality. So I feel like there's a sweet spot in terms of how much we push back against misinformation. You know, you'll never see me make a video about flat earthers because I just don't see the point. You know, making that video only kind of reconfirms their worldview, and there's not really any minds to move there. So that's kind of how I'm conceptualizing misinformation these days.
That's sort of like, that's a reasonable point.
Yeah.
I think I like, there are topics that I'm just like, I'm not going to make a video, because all you do is the people, like, there are certain groups tropes where you saying they're wrong just makes the they're like, well, the sort with the sort of persecution sort of complex where they'll be like, yes, how much are you getting paid to make this, like but
yeah. I'm not sure the argument from the flu follows on.
You don't want to not have the flu too much.
Like, a crumb of social science, please.
No one wants to be too immune to the flu.
A strange. That was just. It seemed like there he was just trying to make a very simple point sound more profound by adding in a bit of science.
I mean, that's the same thing as the nudge stuff, isn't it? Is that everything is basically science. Everything has to be like psychology. Oh, okay, sorry, the video is too loud. I'll turn the video down more. Okay.
A bit like would be a targeted immune system. So I wanted to push Bill a bit further on this idea, and I brought up a tweet that I had seen doing the rounds on Twitter that basically said that the Oxford vaccine development, they were going to open source that vaccine until the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation got involved and said, no, you must partner exclusively.
Okay, so I'm going to pause this before the tweet goes away, because he blurs out the tweet about how this happened, and he sort of presents it as, and then Bill Gates sort of like confirms that this is complete like spurious nonsense. The tweet is by, I think the tweet itself is by Paris Marx, who is a sort of a journalist on the left, but who writes about tech stuff, and particularly about, like, he's doing a lot at the moment about billionaires in space, like, is very much, oh yeah, let me know if this sounds okay now, everyone in the chat, like, does a lot about, like, billionaires trying to save the world. But, like, the news story that he's talking about is from, like, Kaiser Health News, which isn't quite related to sort of Kaiser, the big pharmaceutical company, was not quite as related to that anymore, I don't think, but, like, was initially set up by the guy who sort of set that up, and like is like a legitimate news source reporting this story, but like it's a really
framed as just a tweet.
yeah, like, and like, oh, it really I mean,
if I was going to be smarter about presenting the point out, if I was him, I would have just shown the tweet and cut out that he has linked to a news article that you can see. But like, that's stuff you can look it up in various different sources about that. Like, this isn't just a tweet doing a rounds. It's a pretty well-established news story from several different sources.
And I love the fact that the whole thing is set up to make it look like he's asking him like a difficult question, but what he's actually doing is like getting out the little tee and putting the ball on top, and then handing him the golf club and going like, oh, look, it turns out you're actually even more fantastic than I thought you were in the first place.
You didn't really do this, did you? No. Thank you for confirming.
I'm really glad. And no more questions on that. Because Bill Gates always wants to talk about misinformation. Despite the fact, like, I think the blurry lines between what is misinformation and what is just like bullshit is really like, it's like really complex. Like, there isn't an easy box that you can put misinformation into, I don't think. Like, I don't know. Obviously some stuff is just completely made up, but a lot of stuff is in that grey area in between. Yeah.
And like, even if it did turn out that Gates hadn't pressured in this particular instance this company to not do this, he's done it many times throughout many systems to pressure the continuation of this very bad system. So like, broadly speaking, the point is correct, even if this news story, which is probably true, wasn't true.
Because like, his income is based on like the ownership of intellectual property.
Yeah.
Therefore, like there was a really interesting part of the pandemic where like the Motion Picture Association of America came out against waiving intellectual property rights on vaccines. And you're like, right, it's because you don't want that to then become a thing that, I don't know, set a precedent or whatever. But like, just like, I don't know, there's a real brazenness to that where that's the only connection you can draw. Like, they're not Bill Gates. They can't pretend that they're experts in and what all these things he isn't actually experts in. I just, like, there's also something that just fascinates me about, like, the... we might have lost John. The sort of colonial mindset of, I don't know, assuming that you know better than people in situations where you quite possibly don't. I wonder if John will pop back in, or whether I need to hang up and re-ring him. I'm sure he'll ring me if that is... we've got a whole chat about sciences in the chat. Where can I get my... I'll try getting the chat back up on the screen, but I don't think I can get it to work, I'm afraid. If not, I will I will give up, and I will open the one in the... no, we have lost. We have 100% lost John. Can I get this to work? Nope. Okay, let's go to... this one, and I can... yeah. Where is the chat? Here we go, here's the chat. Oh, that's an interesting point that Ketra makes. Why don't all science students do like a sort of module on the philosophy of science? Or definitely like the sort of sociology of how science works, I think would be interesting. Because like that definitely I don't know, would just help with like acknowledging that there is a connection between the sort of science in the abstract and the how that then enters into reality in some way, I guess. I definitely wish I had done a bit more science at, you know, school or university or whatever. I did not last very long. Like I think I did like double science at GCSE, which I think was like the sort of standard thing you had to do, and then sort of basically dropped it as soon as I could, I think. I think John is going to rejoin us, I believe.
Hi.
And hello, did your power went as well?
It wasn't my internet. Like the whole power went out and everything.
What is going on today? Me, you, the PlayStation Network.
maybe heat's causing lines to melt or something.
Oh, do you think? I sorry everyone that I have looked what can only be described as disgusting for this stream. It's just warm.
That's not true.
There is nothing I can do about it. I bought some special running shirts yesterday, and I thought they were going to be just expensive shirts that were just t-shirts, but they're actually like the thinnest things in the world, and I'm afraid I'm going to just like rip them in two. This has been a technically perfect stream.
Yeah, nothing's gone wrong.
Acknowledge it's been incredible. But yeah, Bill Gates is a weirdo. That's the sort of
tie a bow on that.
the full stop there. And just because you're good at one thing 20 years ago, just like the whole, I think the thing that gets me about it is just the whole colonial mindset of it all, where like all his stuff about like how to make farming better, and it's never like I mean, it's very rarely farming in any countries in which white people have the sort of reins of power, it's always farming in Africa. It is 100. Like it's always he's gonna improve, and it's like where actually a lot of the farming is probably far more sustainable than it is. Definitely than in the US. Because there's no regulation. The kid with the cookie jar has only been able to regulate his bedroom and not the thing.
And conveniently for Bill Gates as well, all these actions which work to halt pollution in farms in the global south also marketize those farms and bring them into a new sort of sphere of influence for the Gates Foundation and make them a lot of money.
And then there's a Behind the Bastards episode of on Bill Gates, and like just some of the stuff's great. Like the Gates Foundation gave loads of money to MasterCard to set up like credit card. I don't know. I guess to like give credit card machines to like shops somewhere. Like, and you're just like, oh my god! Like it is that thing of like we have to create markets everywhere, and then magically stuff will happen.
It was that. Do you remember that article a few months back of a woman who worked for the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation? She wrote an article for The Guardian that was like, child labour isn't all that bad. Here are smallhold farms in Africa where it's great, and like there's a smidge of a point in that child labour is different in different contexts, and like different societies which don't interact with labour in the same way as Western societies do, like have different interactions with child labour. But her argument was that they needed to also become more like Western corporations and become more marketized, and that the kids should then be involved in that process. And it just sounded it like read like a 19th century workhouse pamphlet.
There's like sort of a point that maybe the kid that helps out in the corner shop, because like I don't know, their family owns, I don't know, where you get like big families that own a corner shop, and so like sometimes the kids work there. It's possibly slightly different to if the Ginster's factory is the closest thing I can think of, or the Wrigley's chewing gum factory is vaguely near me. If they had like a room of kids making chewing gum, like it's different, but not like.
It was just like an incredible article, and like it was on the article it said such and such works for the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. You're just like, fucking hell, Guardian, get a grip. Also just look, I can't find a link to the article itself. I can only find like images of it, but it's also one of the Guardian section where it's like paid for by like their global development section is paid for by the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, which always really interests me about the sort of like independent sort of creators on the internet, or like sort of independent journalists. There's on the internet, in that like most journalists want to get away from doing that stuff. Like quite often you'll see when there's been a big wave of like journalists unionizing in the US particularly, and one thing that's like quite often on the collective bargaining thing is that they have the right to not do that stuff. Like, so I don't know, so Terry's come along and want to pay to write an article about how chocolate oranges can save cancer. You can go, no, thank you. But then quite a lot of the quite a lot of the stuff on when you get sort of like independent journalists on the internet are quite different to. It tends to be more like throwing yourself into the stream of money rather than the thing of like, I'm actually gonna take more risks and do interesting stuff. I actually can't find. The article seems to have. They maybe brought it down after everyone. I wouldn't be surprised if they took it down after the blowback it got.
The Guardian's just such a weird publication these days. Yeah, the global development stuff is all sponsored by the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation to help focus the world's attention on global development.
Well, thank God we've got a free press in this country.
Yeah.
Half is state funded and half is funded by Bill and Melinda Gates.
Bill Gates. I love some. I've just found the Millennium Development Goals, and just some of them are fantastic. Improve maternal health is so vague. Sort of improved.
Make smiles 10% wider.
The stuff where you the stuff about the figures around extreme poverty and hunger and stuff where they just moved all the numbers. Reading that oh crikey.
You got full of fucking Steven Pinker going on and on about how great everything is, and doing the sort of repeating uncritically Millennium Development Goals shit and talk about how great everything is, and you're just like, fuck you, Steven Pinker, you Epstein Black Book shithead.
I think We're in Hell and Unlearning Economics are working on something about that.
Yeah, I think they are.
The word on the wind? That's not the phrase. I don't know what the phrase is. But that could be a phrase. People should start saying that. If you're let's make that a thing.
Unlearning Economics just DM'd me out of the blue one day just saying, I hate the optimists maybe more than the neoliberals. And I was just like, he's reading some Steven Pinker shit right now, isn't he?
It's just so it's just things, a lot of sort of that big is it called big history genre is like that as well. I couldn't get into, I know lots of people really enjoy it, Sapiens. Yeah. I tried, and I read, and I don't know, there's some interesting stuff, but it's everything that happened is a good thing. And,
the arc of history.
Yeah, because something happened, it is de facto good. Where we are now is a good place to be. So the road to getting here is inarguably a road of things getting better. Yeah,
that was one of the more interesting, or the whole book is interesting. One of the best parts of Federici's Caliban and the Witch is the challenging of that sort of, stagist improvement of everything. And she points out that things for women were in pre-capitalist era were, maybe not perfect, but in some ways better than they were post-capitalist. And they're like, that's a good point to make. Things aren't just better because it's newer.
Yeah, a lot of the reading I was doing about for my last video, I was reading a lot about states, and particularly James C. Scott's work is really interesting, and he talks a lot about we have this idea that at some point in history, people settled down in sort of usually near rivers and started and they settled down and started growing stuff, and then they really liked that, and so they started to make some sort of government type thing, and he's no, most people 100% did not want to do that. People settled down for a bit, and then they were like, this shit, let's not do this anymore, and then started hunter-gathering or whatever a bit more, and people, and generally people were forced into being part of those, and I think some of his other work looks at what does he call state resistant people or something, I think he calls them, or I think non-state people of people who continue to live in the world, often in really hard to govern places, so mountain regions quite often, or deep in maybe the Amazon and stuff, where it's just quite hard to actually know who lives there and stuff. The ways in which people still just resist. They're no, I don't know. You don't and that is a long history of people going actually. Life is easier where you're just trying to have enough, I don't know, you're able to just sustain yourself and maybe the few people you hang around with, rather than I don't know, sort of commit to a system.
I did in your video, it's slightly different sort of angle, but I liked the discussion of how state and the nation state is a particular thing, as opposed to maybe what you might call other forms of states or other forms of nations, is a really useful one that I feel like a lot of the time is just completely obscured by like the eternity of states, of nation states as a thing. That was one of the when the Nazi was responding to the video. That was one of the things he got to a point where I was talking about how in Black Marxism, Cedric Robertson traces the emergence of the nation state through this particular history and tracks it as a particular European construction, and like that has certain political implications for this political formation being exported to different parts of the world. And then the Nazi just went, no, what about the Chinese Empire? And I heard that bit and I was just like, how do you engage with that level of
because sometimes like the subtlety is hard, and like it's hard for us to imagine, like it really is hard for us to imagine it being anything other than, partly because the ways in which nation states like reach back into history and like claim a bunch of stuff.
Yeah.
They're like, that was definitely and like I think because the example that a lot of like Western history often use, and probably world history, because we sort of got to decide what that was for quite a lot of history, the examples are often, England or the UK. And that has and that's a different, that has had slightly clearer borders for a slightly longer amount of time than say Germany or Italy, to name a couple of even close European examples, which just haven't existed for that long.
But even in that case, the British Empire is that a nation state? Is the British Empire a nation state?
So it is I think someone commented something about there's always been very clear borders, and people have always known where actually what's really interesting about the history is that there's probably been technically a border for most for a state of some description, but what that actually means in terms of practicalities is something else entirely. If you don't have a centralized army of some description, or police force, or even if you do, but maybe it's maybe it's a mountain border or something, or if your bureaucracy is quite centralized, there actually is whole bits where technically you rule over that bit. But, is it worth your while really checking what's going on over there? You've never been there.
It was one of the things about nationhood as well. It was another thing I think Robinson talked about this as well, was that during that earlier constructions of statehood before the nation state, there was people just didn't feel affinity in any sort of way to the state that they were lived in. Kings and queens would often use mercenaries for armies because they go into their populations, and the populations would go, fuck you, I don't care.
I think that I mean, people got press ganged into being in the Navy and stuff, didn't they? No one really and I think that came up. I read so many different sort of takes on it, but that came up fairly regularly as one of the defining features of starting to have that actually the sort of building of those armies that were either, I don't know what it's called when you join it yourself. What's the opposite? What the opposite of scripted is?
Professional.
No, I suppose a sort of professional army is also the part where you do start to I don't know, it's also linked into it. It was really interesting. It was quite a fun video it was very. There was a point where it was quite frustrating because I was like, just a million books to read and.
Yeah.
But
I was a video I could definitely see being used in a classroom.
Yeah, I was quite keen to like sort of go back to basics almost and do just like here's just a explanation of a thing.
Yeah.
But it's also that thing of like I don't know. I get more and more ambitious where I'm like I've not touched every single perspective on this. Initially, I wanted to have a whole thing where I wanted to do a whole load of research about sort of indigenous, like sort of in indigenous America was the example I'm sort of thinking of, like sort of thoughts about land and territory, and do like a like use that as like here's a completely different way. I think that might come up in a different video now, but like that whole thing of like you don't really own the land, like like just having a completely different view of the relationship, because like I don't know, nation states sort of are about the relationship between people and the land in many ways, and sort of if you have an example of a completely different thing, sometimes that helps. But
I guess the nation state, being a particular construction of a particular period of the development of capitalism, will have an ownership relation, and imperialism and colonialism will have an ownership relation. And theorists of the time, Locke used the fact that indigenous communities in the US didn't have that relationship with the land to then justify their genocide.
Yeah. Then like, is it him that talks about like mixing your labor with the land, and that makes it yours? Oh, the sort of like improvement.
I think that. Yeah, I think that is.
Like, yeah. Which I want to make a good enclosure video at some point, but I'll probably make it about something else, and then like be like, haha, you clicked on this video thinking it was going to be about that. It's actually my enclosure.
I like it when a video ends up like that, where it's like the debate one. It's like, you thought this was going to be a debate. Well, actually, we're challenging epistemological constructions of the West. I managed to fit genocide into this video too. You thought you were safe. You weren't fucking safe. I'll make you think about genocide.
Yeah. No, I love doing that. I just want to go and wander about on the moors a bit and find the bit that there is a bit somewhere near me that is still commons, but I think it works differently these days. I don't think I can take my cow up. But I think we might wrap it up. I said we might be about 2 hours, and we've been a lot more than that. So thank you for sticking around, John.
Absolutely. It's a pleasure. Thanks for having me on.
It's been a lot of fun. Thank you, everyone, for being here to watch. Oh, sorry that John was a bit loud towards the end, but he's more interesting than me, so much better for him.
I've got a loud voice.
But yeah, no, thank you, everyone, for being here as well. Thank you for sticking with us, particularly through all of the technical problems in the world. But no one could be playing PlayStation, so it there wasn't really any other options, was there? I say that I've not played on a PlayStation in quite a while. That's a point that does not. I don't know. I'm not going to talk about that. Just don't have any games. But anyway, I'm never good at doing the end bit because I just talk for ages and be like, thank my mum and dad and my. But like, Joshua has said, I didn't catch many of these streams. Super interesting. Thanks, guys. Thank you for being here, Joshua. I'm glad you enjoyed it. But yeah, every week at like 7 p.m. UK time, or wherever that is where you are in the world, and I'm gonna find the bit, and see you all then.
Bye.
Bye.